Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning. Our birthday boy, Rufai. Welcome back. Good morning to you as well. Good morning to all our viewers out there. Yeah. And you have implications for us, right? I'm coming to the office for that.
Please come to the office. Please.
So we begin in China. Deflationary fears have been renewed once more. Taking a look at China's latest inflation figures, you'll see the CPI coming in at 0.1%. Estimates were for 0.4. In February, it's at 0.7. So it's decelerated. Producer price inflation, that's PPI. You can see it's in negative territory at minus 2.8. That was the estimate. So basically, prices continue to fall over in China. And as we've talked about, that deflationary spiral, if consumers see that prices keep falling, they hold back because they expect that things are going to fall further. Although on the services side, thanks to the lunar holidays and people spending a bit more, on that side, maybe you can see that there's a little bit of price support, but overall, that worry is still very much in China. Now, we go to the U.S., it's the opposites, right? And Dr. Abati talked about this extensively yesterday in terms of where we're expecting inflation to be. So on a year-on-year basis, inflation did rise in the United States. You should have the numbers in front of you, 3.5% year-on-year in March versus 3.2% in February. Month-on-month, still at 0.4%. And you'll see that for core inflation, when you strip out volatile energy and food, month-on-month at 0.4 and remaining at 3.8, but still sticky. Markets reacted, particularly in Asia, where they are pretty sensitive to where rates go because of where rates are in Asia and this whole carry trade matter. That's the spread difference between both nations and how investors react. So the yen slid, and we've had authorities in Japan saying, well, they might intervene again. I think the yen now is at 151.2 or 3. Speaking of Japan, actually, before I get to Japan, President Biden initially forecast that he was expecting rate cuts to happen. Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, him and his wife, Yoko Kishida, are in the United States. There was a press conference where they talked about a range of issues, but here is Biden reacting to the inflation numbers and saying he still expects a rate cut this year.
I do stand by my prediction that before the year is out, there'll be a rate cut. This may delay it a month or so. I'm not sure of that. We don't know what the Fed is going to do for certain. But look, we have dramatically reduced inflation from 9% down to close to 3%. We're in a situation where we're better situated than we were when we took office, where inflation was skyrocketing. And we have a plan to deal with it, whereas my opposition talks about two things. They just want to cut taxes for the wealthy and raise taxes on other people. And so I think they have no plan. Our plan is one I think is still sustainable.
So also there was a state dinner held in honor of Kishida and his wife. But I should point out that press conference, we'll play some more clips on the Global Business Report. I heard you three talking about Israel. They also talked about Nippon Steel, which is a Japanese company that wants to take over a U.S. steel company. Unions have opposed it. Biden has come out to oppose it as well. He wants union support. But particularly Israel, just to point out, I think one of you mentioned RFK Jr., the Kennedy that's running in the election, right? He actually hurts Trump more than he hurts Biden because he's a anti-vaxxer, more of a conspiracy theorist. So a lot of people have said that, look, because most of the people that support him are more on the right-wing side, and if he gets on the ballot in some of those swing states, could actually end up hurting Trump. But with respect to Japan and the United States, they talked about having closer ties. China was discussed. It was a wide-ranging press conference between both parties. I think we're going to move now to Europe, more on the inflation discussion. We're expecting ECB, that's the European Central Bank, with Christine Lagarde, to make a decision today. Now, the thing is the ECB going to front run the Federal Reserve? Because, of course, with that inflation print coming out of the United States, we've gone, as Dr. Abati mentioned yesterday, from an estimation of 6 rate cuts this year down to 3. After yesterday, now markets are pricing in just 2 rate cuts, maybe even 1. And Larry Summers, he himself isn't saying there might even be a rate hike. So it's all up in the air. But for the ECB, if we take a look at inflation in March for the Eurozone area, you'll see Italy at 1.3, Spain at 3.2, France at 2.3 or 2.4, Germany at 2.4. So, and then the Eurozone as well in that 2.4 region. So inflation has been decelerating in Europe, but the language of Lagarde has been that we may not see a cut until June, which is, I think they're tracking the Fed. Now, if the Fed doesn't cut in June, then what happens? If Europe cuts rates ahead of the United States, you have a wider spread between both regions, which means if you're an investor, you are likely to take money out of European securities, be it money markets, be it money market or fixed income, and go over to the United States where rates are higher. So, and then there's a currency implication of that as well. So, I think they're likely to hold. We'll find out at about 1:30, 1:45 p.m. Local time today when that press conference in Europe begins. To aviation, there's a very interesting article in today's This Day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of record, about how Air Peace flights to London has sparked a price war with respect to that Lagos-London route. I think we should kind of take it easy not to get ahead of ourselves. In the article, which is a very good article, I encourage everybody to go read it in today's This Day newspaper. Also, it's online as well. It mentions the fact that an economy flights from Lagos, London, and Air Peace was pegged at about 1.2 million. And then later on, it now says that it was reduced to about 850,000, and it mentions other airlines. If Air Peace was a price leader, right, then the initial price they set, every other airline would be chasing it. The fact that they have slashed prices again actually runs counter to the narrative that they are the ones sort of setting prices. The Lagos-London route is a very popular route, and we should actually look more towards the fundamentals, that the backlogs have been cleared. And so, with the backlogs being cleared, in fact, prior to backlogs being cleared, airlines were pricing tickets really, really high because they couldn't repatriate their funds out of the country because of the FX backlog. So they had to make up the difference by hiking their airline ticket prices. So now that the backlogs have been cleared, you're seeing that being reflected. And you've also heard from Festus Keyamo, who, of course, we had on the morning show, with Ayo and Dr. Abati, that he hinted that Emirates may actually be returning to Nigeria possibly in June. Again, that's, and then that's going to be another additional, again, that is more linked to the backlog. So amidst all, the excitement of this route, I think we should kind of, temper down the narrative that all of a sudden we have just one airline that is dictating prices for an entire market on a very popular route. Still in Nigeria, we spoke yesterday to the chief economist, Ralph Ossa, of the World Trade Organization. They just released a new report on global trade. They're optimistic that global trade is going to pick up in terms of merchandise trade this year and also in 2025. I asked Ralph Ossa about the African continent. We had a wide-ranging conversation. We'll play that full interview on the Global Business Report. But here he is reacting to the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement and what needs to happen for more trade within Africa.
Well, first of all, if you bring up Africa, let me celebrate that Africa is the region that is going to experience the fastest growth, both in imports and exports this year, albeit from a relatively low base. But I think it's still something we should recognize, especially because you were mentioning that Africa does need to catch up in international trade, but the dimension that you highlight is, of course, an important one, which is the within Africa trade, which is also why the Africa the Continental Free Trade Agreement is so important. I also would like to bring to your attention that there's a trade facilitation agreement in the WTO, which is not about reducing tariffs, but it's just about making trade easier. Simple things like streamlining customs procedures and so on. And in our estimation, that's exactly the kind of trade cost reduction that benefits Africa particularly. So it's also going to be important to continue implementing this trade facilitation agreement on the continent.
That's all I have for you on the business segment of the Arise News Morning Show. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Okay, Rotus, thank you so much. Okay,
Rotus,
don't be like that.
You want to create a show within a show.
Okay,
I'll
Rotus,
see you up tomorrow.
Rotus, I'd like to
Of course,
link.
we'll see you tomorrow.
I'd like to link two stories. I'd like to link the story about the Japanese leader coming to America and Nippon Steel trying to acquire a local steel company and the unions kicking against it, and how a couple of nations around the world have this level of protectionism to be able to protect things internally, and the unions kicking against that. What is happening with the airpiece flights? Rotus, truth has to be told. Yes, they don't dictate the price in the market. It's a cutthroat market. It's about your margins. And the question is, how low can you go, like Ludacris will say, on the prices to be able to get customers and competitors? But also, there should be a level of national protection for companies like airpiece. And we must have to state it the way it is. Because you keep talking about, they've cleared the encumbrances and all of that. But in all fairness to airpiece, it was when airpiece started the price war and slashed prices down that these foreign airlines know that, there was a market that was leaving them and they had to fight. Where is the protection? Just like you're having with Nippon Steel trying to acquire an American local steel company and the unions are kicking against them and Joe Biden is supporting them. Where's the protection for our own local businesses to be able to hedge as regards these margins? Because you see, most of these other foreign airlines have the money, they have the cash. It's not what they only make from Nigeria. They have the injection at which they can fight. Your airpiece, without a government support, will just be left in the dark and they'll cannibalize airpiece before you know it across that route. And we have seen this happen so many years before now. How, if we do not effectively stand up for our own local businesses, how they can be cannibalized. And this is a way to think nationally as a country. We need to start thinking of also the national interest also helping to support the interests of our own national businesses out there. Let's be realistic on this. Every nation in the world does it. During COVID, in case you don't know, the German government gave some more concessions to Lufthansa and they injected more share capital in them.
All right, yeah, this story, it's very tricky because this story reminds me of one we also took here on the show with regards to Elon Musk saying that the reason why BYD and some Chinese EV manufacturers could reduce their price was because they were getting support, government support, and was an unfair. It was an unfair playing ground, and that the U.S. government should step in. This story reminds me of that, and I know we spoke about that extensively and saying this is business. Everyone should come in and put their best foot forward. I totally agree with the fact that the government should offer some kind of leverage or support, especially because of the nature of this Nigerian business and the fact that it coming into the market also exposed a lot of things and a lot of taking advantage of the Nigerian market by these international players, and also building for sustainability of businesses in the aviation sector. We have spoken about this extensively. Indeed, in an interview yesterday, Mr. Allen Onyema talked about the fact that the government must support in order to be able to survive this price war amongst who we call the bullies or the players, the bigger players in the aviation sector in Nigeria. But I want to see how this will work out. But I do believe that there are steps or interventions that can be done to ensure that he is able to sustain being in the market.
Okay, 2 quick points. Let's start with U.S. inflation. Prices rose 3.5%, hotter than expected. Prices have been rising, hotter than expected since January. In January, it was 3.1%. In February, it was 3.2%. Yesterday, when I addressed this subject, I said the expectation by the Dow Jones was that it would be 3.4, but it came in at 3.5%. What it means, clearly, is that inflation remains a sticky problem in the United States. And as I said yesterday, the Fed will meet at the end of this month. What is going to happen? What is likely to happen is that the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Central Bank, is going to take more time in applying any rate cuts. Rate cuts may likely be detained. So that's where that is. And the major issues are in the areas in terms of the oil index measures with shelter, with fuel. They call it gas in the United States that have gone up. So this inflation watching that we do with the United States is likely to go much longer. Secondly, I'd like to talk about Alibaba. Jack Ma suddenly appeared yesterday. He issued a statement, praising the reorganization in Alibaba, and that had an effect. There was a jump of about 2% in the stock price of Alibaba just because Jack Ma showed up. The same Jack Ma who had been under pressure from the Chinese authorities, now speaking positively. And this is the same thing we talk about, the link between personality and, business. We have done it repeatedly on this program with Aliko Dangote. We have done it with Warren Buffett, how his influence, translates business into higher growth. And we did it just yesterday with Femi Otedola, how his personal influence and his activism, transforms business. So we have another example coming up again, that same yesterday, with Jack Ma of Alibaba, who at a point, in fact, disappeared to Japan to go and teach in a university. But, for how long would this stretch? China having serious problems, with the economy and trying to rejig things, as Li Jiang, the Prime Minister, told us in January. Well, thank you very much, Rotus. Thank you.